What's up, muscle and strength? This is Bhuwan Chauhan here, IFBB Pro Men's Physique. Today we're going to be cooking a muscle building meal, which is one of my favorite meals to cook in the off season. And you can tailor it according to how many calories you want, how much carbs you want, how much fats you want. But I'm going to give you an example of what a great muscle building meal especially for Hardgainers is. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making rice separately. It's called Spanish rice. And then we're going to be cooking the bison separately with some spices. And then we're going to be having the tortilla as a base. And we're going to put the rice, the bison, and the avocado. We can make a guac, or you can put it like sliced up. Either way, it works. So let's get started. All right, so first we're going to be chopping up some onions. And this is actually going to go in the rice. And this is just for flavor. I just love onions, and it just blends the whole recipe really well. And then we're gonna be using the rest of the onion for the bison actually. So we're gonna be using one full onion. Okay, so we got the onions, we have the rice. Now I'm gonna put some rice. So I'm gonna be putting 2 cups of rice in here. So we got the rice. I'm gonna wash this, and then we'll be putting on the rest of the ingredients in here. So I just gave it like a couple rinses, 3 rinses here, and then we're gonna be getting some black beans in there. So I'm gonna open up this can. Black beans. So I get the unsalted black beans. You have both varieties in the stores. It's better to use unsalted because then you have full control over how much salt you're adding. The salsa that we're going to be adding in the rice already has salt as well, so you don't want to just overload with too much sodium. And then we're going to be adding about half a can in the rice, and then we're going to be adding some of the onion. Now I like to add 1/4 cup just through seeing it, not really actually measuring it, but it's usually 1/4 cup. And the last ingredient we're going to be doing salsa. So for salsa, I'm going to be measuring it, and we're going to be doing 1 cup of salsa. So the last 2 ingredients that are left is olive oil. So I'm going to be adding about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and half a teaspoon of salt. And for that, we're going to be measuring that. So I have a tablespoon here. Maybe half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the rice. Now we're gonna give a nice stir. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna be doing is cooking the bison. Now I got the extra lean bison from Costco. Has 7 grams of fat per 100 gram and 20 grams of protein per 100 grams. So this is like similar to extra lean ground beef, but I like to prefer bison because it has more nutrients and just tastes much better. You're gonna be pan frying with some oil spray. So for oil spray, here's a tip. I'll always get the avocado or the coconut oil spray. You wanna make sure that at the end, where it says the ingredients, the only ingredient it should say is the oil, nothing else. So those PAM sprays, the cheap ones, those actually have a ton of other ingredients and you don't really want that. So okay, so the onion's almost done. We're gonna be putting this bison in there now. I know, like me coming from India, I'm a Hindu. In our culture, we're not supposed to be eating beef. So bison is actually, let's say, mountain buffalo. It's not a cow. So if anybody who is in the similar shoes who can't eat beef, you can definitely eat bison, and it tastes so good and just fills your red meat needs. But if you, for example, are living in India or anywhere in Southeast Asia and you don't find bison there because we don't have it there, you can always use extra lean ground goat, which is readily available. So for ground goat, if you want a leaner cut, you just use the leg portion of it. So just the leg portion, nothing else from the goat. That's super lean. So now we're going to be using some of the spices. So I keep it very simple with my bison. I use the exact same recipe if I were to eat bison with rice. whether it's off season or I want to keep it super simple in my prep as well. So the first thing I like to add is some garlic powder. And we're going to be adding about a tablespoon of garlic powder. So I use 1 pound or almost half a kg of the bison, the meat. And then we're going to be using some ground black pepper. Half a teaspoon is more than enough. And you're going to be using some ground cayenne pepper or red chili, either or. This just gives a little bit more flavor. For those in India or anywhere in Southeast Asia, you can actually use Kashmiri red chili powder, which also has a lot of flavor and gives a nice little color to it, if that matters to you. And the last thing we're going to be adding is some salt. So about half a teaspoon salt, you can measure it. I just know how much that is. So while this is cooking, what I'm going to do is cut the avocado up. And then I'm going to make sure I measure how much avocado I'm using. So half an avocado is usually about 100 grams. When this one is actually only 62 grams because it's a small avocado, which is why I like to always measure. So this is 62 grams. So we're going to use this. You can use a whole avocado. I'm only going to be using half because I'm only going to show you guys one tortilla. So, and this tortilla is a whole wheat. For those in Asia, you can always use roti, which is our, every household has roti and they eat. This is a traditional food. So you can use roti, make the meat like that, cook the rice like that, and combine it all together. And then if you don't have avocado in the country that you're living in, you can always add some other sources of fats, whether it's olive oil, you can sprinkle more of the olive oil in there, or you can have some nut butter on the side, or nuts on the side, but that's up to you. So for guacamole, not want to put too much effort in. You can just get one of these at superstores or any of the stores that you guys have, and you just put 1 teaspoon in there with the avocado and a little bit of onion, and you just mix it up, mash it up, and that becomes a guac. And for the tacos, actually, I also found this at a store called Taco Sauce. Has barely any calories, to be honest. Like 1 tablespoon has 1 gram of carbohydrates, and we don't even use 1 tablespoon. Probably going to be using like 1 teaspoon or half a tablespoon on the tortilla, and it gives a lot of flavor. So all right, and then we just mash it up. Okay. Okay, we got the rice, we got the bison, we got the guac, we got the tortilla. Now we have to just combine all these ingredients together. I usually like to eat 6 ounces of the meat in a meal. So we're gonna measure 6 ounces of the meat. We're gonna add 140 grams of rice, which is 1 cup of rice, is 40 grams of carbs for each burrito. And then we're gonna divide this into half and add a little bit of taco seasoning. There you go. Then we're gonna wrap this. And then we just put this in the pan. And while that's cooking up, we're gonna prepare a second tortilla the same way we got the other. This is a standard meal for anybody who's eating 6 meals a day and wants a higher carb, moderate fat, and moderate protein meal. And there you guys have it. Give it a go. Now this is a really tasty meal, especially in off season, and you can never get tired of it. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel Muscle and Strength, comment and like this video. Check me out on Instagram and YouTube. My name is Bhuwan Chauhan. See you guys next time.